The Legend of the Eight Immortals.
Chapter 9. The Dragon King's Coronation and the River Snail Feast. It is said that Yuelao, the deity of red threads, descended from the celestial mists to find the two Genrin, Piao Miao and Huolong, waiting for him. The two Genrin smiled and asked him, "My friend, what brings you here today?" Yuelao laughed, his voice warm and resonant. "I concern myself with nothing but the marriages of all realms, from the three heavens to the continents across the distant seas. Since your two disciples are bound by fate, why have I not been invited for a cup of celebratory wine?" The Genrin exchanged a look of surprise. "So that is your errand. We are honored, but our disciples are of the dragon lineage. Does their union truly fall under your jurisdiction?" "Indeed," Yuelao replied, "in matters of fate I make no distinction between immortals, the enlightened, spirits, or mortals." He drew a glowing marriage register from his sleeve, showing them the golden ink upon the page. There it was written that Pinghe and Hu Feilong, originally of the dragon lineage and now reborn as humans, were destined to become husband and wife on this very day. Seeing this divine proof, the Genrin summoned their disciples and called them forward to present their formal vows. Yuelao kindly refused their grand bows, noting that as future rulers of the four seas, they would soon be his equals in the celestial hierarchy. Huolong Genrin apologized for the lack of a feast, as the disciples had neither their official offices nor a palace to call their own. Yuelao simply laughed. "I shall put this feast on my tab. Once they have taken up their posts and moved into their new palace, I shall come to congratulate them and collect my wine tenfold." After Yuelao departed, the Genren prepared their disciples for their royal future. Suddenly, celestial music filled the air as a procession of divine officials descended upon the waves, bearing a golden scroll. The Jade Emperor's decree resounded over the sea. The mortal world was suffering from great floods, and while human leaders like Xia Yu and Bo Yi labored on land, the realm of waters required a sovereign to restore balance. Though Pinghe and Hu Feilong had previously transgressed heavenly laws, the decree granted them a path to redeem themselves. Pinghe was formally appointed as the Dragon King of the Four Seas, and Hu Feilong as his queen. They were commanded to repent and reform, atoning for their past sins through duty and service. Because of this divine grace, their descendants were granted the right to rule the waters for eternity, a mandate that would never be rescinded. Before they could ascend to heaven, the Genren remained wary of their disciples' humble origins. Piao Miao Genren spent days drilling them in the intricate rituals of the heavenly court, ensuring their inner virtue matched the splendor of their new regal robes. Only when their presence was perfected did they travel to the Eight Sights Palace to visit the Grand Master, Lao Jun. Lao Jun gifted the Dragon King a divine sword and the Queen a sacred needle, artifacts capable of striking demons from 1,000 miles away. Turning to the Genren, Lao Jun spoke of the region of Guanku. He explained that its transformation was a matter of predestined destiny. Because this change was ordained by the cycles of time itself, it absolved Pinghe of his past rashness in moving mountains. As they departed, the Genren issued a grave warning. They reminded their disciples that even the Jade Emperor once allowed a fragment of his soul to fall into the mortal world to repay an old debt, a fragment that later returned as the great Gen Wu Emperor. "If the highest lords must guard against a single selfish thought," they warned, "how much more must you protect your Tao hearts from the temptations of the world?" Returning to the mortal world, the couple devoted themselves to helping Xia Yu tame the floods. To establish their seat of authority, Huolong Genren descended into the depths of the South Sea and gathered vast quantities of pure crystal. With divine art, he raised a palace beneath the waves that was transparent, radiant, and magnificent. Thus was born the legendary Crystal Palace. From this throne, the Dragon King commanded his forces to subdue the Jiao and other restless water spirits, finally bringing order to the chaotic tides. Nearby, a humble story of mercy unfolded. A poor farmer named Sun Jie lived with his wife, Lady Liu, and his ailing mother, Lady Wang. Lady Wang had kept a strict vegetarian vow for decades to honor her late husband. During the Great Floods, Lady Liu had found a river snail of extraordinary size and had gently kept it in a basin of clear water. On her deathbed, Lady Wang saw this large river snail and suddenly developed a final, longing craving for its taste. Lady Liu faced a painful dilemma. To deny a dying wish felt heartless, but to serve meat would break the sacred discipline her mother-in-law had upheld her entire life. In a profound act of devotion, Lady Liu took the empty snail shells and cleaned them until they shone. She then filled them with a paste made of wheat gluten and tofu, carefully shaping it to resemble meat. Lady Wang ate with joy, believing she had tasted a delicacy while her vows and spiritual merit remained preserved. She passed away in peace, her filial piety honored by her daughter-in-law's compassionate deception. After the funeral for his mother, Sun Jie looked at the remarkably large river snail they had kept. Remembering his wife's clever kindness and the mercy they had shown the creature, he took the snail to the water and released it back into the wild. Tragedy, however, did not stop there. The Great Flood had not only claimed their home, but had also sowed the seeds of sickness. Sun Jie's wife, Lady Liu, had exhausted herself caring for her ailing mother-in-law and managing their ruined household. Between the damp, unhealthy air left by the receding waters and the sheer weight of her daily toil, she fell gravely ill. Months later, Lady Liu also passed away. When her time came, she held Sun Jie's hand, her eyes filling with tears. "I have stayed by your side for 20 years," she whispered, "caring for your parents and our home. My only regret is that I have not given you a child. We are so poor. How will you ever afford to marry again once I am gone? I cannot bear the thought of the Sun family line ending with you." With those final grieving words, she closed her eyes forever. Sun Jie was left utterly alone, his body thin from grief. To survive, he took up work as a laborer for the wealthy families in the village. It was a grueling life. His employers provided only the midday meal, leaving him to trek home every morning and night to cook for himself. Exhausted and mourning, he struggled to balance his labor with his chores. Worst of all, his house stood empty, a constant reminder of his wife's dying words that carved into his heart like a knife. This hardship continued for half a year, until the day of his wife's birth anniversary. After weeping at her grave, Sun Jie returned toward his village. From a distance, he was startled to see a plume of cooking smoke rising from his own chimney. Hurrying inside, he found the rice freshly cooked and the dishes steaming hot. He searched everywhere, but the mysterious cook had vanished without a trace. Driven by hunger, he ate the meal in a daze. From that day on, the miracle repeated. Every time he returned from work, the tea was boiling and the rice was ready, yet the doors and windows remained securely locked. Half terrified and half amazed, Sun Jie decided to uncover the truth. One morning he feigned leaving for work, but instead borrowed a ladder from a neighbor. He leaned it against his wall and peered through the kitchen window. The sight nearly sent his soul flying from his body. Inside his humble kitchen stood a woman of such ethereal, celestial beauty that she seemed to radiate light. Who was this extraordinary lady? Even Sun Jie himself could not begin to guess. As for the truth of her identity, we must leave for the next chapter to unfold. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves ancient tales and quiet miracles. Your support helps these stories continue.